And now,
Hire Away with Collins Harlan.
Welcome to Hire Away. Hire Away is a show where we talk about jobs, we talk about business, but importantly, we talk to the people that are operating those businesses and doing those jobs. These are people with skin in the game. My name is Collins. I'm a staffing specialist with Labor Finders. And in St. Louis, we have two branches, one in North St. Louis, one in South St. Louis. And we have branches all over the country. So no matter where you're listening from, if you're looking for people, if you have positions to fill, all you have to do is go to laborfinders.com. That's laborfinders.com. Find the branch nearest you, call us up, we'll help you out. Okay, so one of the things we do on this show is we give a microphone, a forum to local business owners so that they can speak their mind and represent their products. And today on the show, we have the owner of Santino's Cigars and Cocktails. His name is Mike Marino. And folks, this is one of the best cigar bars you'll find, bar none, across the country. So without further ado, let's just talk to Mike and hear about it. Let's do this.
Hire Away.
Mike Marino, welcome to the show.
thank you for having me on.
You look like $1 million,
Well,
man.
thank you.
But your store looks like $1 million. You have one of the nicest cigar lounges that I've ever seen, and certainly in Jefferson County. But there's quite a story behind how this came to be. Like, it goes all the way back to your family and how they came over from Italy, correct?
Yes, and well, thank you. Let me just touch on that first point. I did think about this concept for quite some time. I looked at places all over the country and world. I looked at things locally. Did a lot of research, and I was trying to, ascertain what did people really want if they go to a quintessential cigar bar. What does that mean? Now, to answer the other part of the question, yes, a lot. My parents had an interesting history. My father lived in Sicily during World War II.
Wow.
And pretty devastating, as you can imagine. Yeah. And after the war, millions of other immigrants just really wanted to get to the U.S. I mean, after the war, there was, nothing, no food, no jobs, nothing, no resources. So, like millions of immigrants, he was very lucky to get a boat ride, 12-day trip.
12 days.
12 days.
In a boat.
12
and we're
days.
not talking about Carnival Cruise Lines.
No, and this was right, exactly. This was this is your typical what you see in documentaries, third class voyage at the bottom of the boat. Back in those days, you don't come up to the upper deck to see what's going on or see the ocean or mingle. Most of these immigrants literally had no money. My dad, actually, the Post-Dispatch wrote an article a long time ago about my dad, where that he was explaining his voyage, and he was explaining that he had an empty suitcase, but he carried the suitcase with him. And the reporter's like, well, why did you do that? And he says, well, every immigrant had a suitcase. I just didn't have anything to put in it. So, and he literally had $2 to his name. And, it was just an interesting story. So, 12 days on a boat, no shower.
Ooh.
So he gets to Ellis Island, and first thing he has to do is buy a bar of soap.
Which costs money.
Yeah, I want to say back in those days, he said it was like 15 cents or what. This was 1955. He was 21 when he landed in New York, and he had a kid with him from his hometown in Sicily. I believe at the time he was maybe 11 or 12 years old.
Wait, did he take the kid with him? Or?
Yeah, I should have backed up. When they were boarding, there was a boy in his village that parents wanted him to come to America to stay with relatives and start a life here because, as I said, it was all pretty much decimated all over Europe. So as they were boarding, the guy taking the tickets said, you can't board, you're underage, you don't have a guardian.
Oh, I see.
So my dad volunteered to be this kid's guardian since he knew the family. And I guess back in those days, he was allowed to do that, maybe with no official documentation.
It was a different time.
It was a different time. Yeah. So they got to New York, and the boy was going to then travel on to St. Louis, where his relatives were, and the parents of this child thanked my dad for getting him to New York safely, and says, "Would you continue to accompany him to St. Louis. My dad said, look, I don't have any money for a plane ticket. I'm taking a bus. And they bought his plane ticket, and so he could stay with the kid and get him to St. Louis. And then my dad was reunited with his brother, and life started.
Where does your mom come into all of this?
My mother was actually born in the U.S. Her mother, she was pregnant. Her mother was pregnant with her on the ride over, so she was born a few months after she arrived to the U.S.
I see.
And that was kind of the catalyst. My parents didn't know each other, but they met through a friend who introduced them. And since my dad didn't speak English, and she did, and she spoke perfect Sicilian because of her parents, which came from Sicily. My dad kind of fell in love, and they hit it off.
It was a match made in heaven.
Yeah,
so
I
to
guess
speak.
so.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a nice old world story right there.
But it's not unique to just us. Millions and millions of immigrants had the same story. Back in those days, people really wanted to assimilate. I even asked my father. Because a lot of Italians or Sicilians, and that come to this country, they'll name their kids Italian names. And my dad was so happy to get the opportunity to come here. He gave us all American names.
Yeah.
Because back you assimilate. You were proud to come here because it was a privilege.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to call you Giuseppe, but no, that's interesting. What did he? So really, they didn't know the language when they came. He had to learn the language.
And really, I challenge anyone to think about this scenario. We hear in modern times today, you open up the internet, look at the news, and so and so is leaving the country. Well, yeah, these are millionaire and billionaires. It's easy for people to have homes in other countries when you have money. Okay. But think about millions of immigrants who came with nothing. Like I said, my father had $2 in his pocket. They risked everything. Who in their right mind would travel halfway around the world, cannot speak the language of the country they're going to, has no money, has no job? Right. My dad was not educated in Sicily or America. So he couldn't read and write in either language. So to be as successful as he was just a true, it showed his character.
Absolutely.
He had to work 10 times harder than everyone else.
And he did it because he was running away from something and towards America where he could be safe, raise a family. But you said that he was successful. What did he, it sounds like it would be hard to even get a job, but you said he was successful. What did he end up doing?
Well, I mean, he, as a lot of immigrants, they faced a lot of problems or discrimination. It was hard to find any jobs. They had to take the most menial job. So, he worked a lot of menial jobs. And back in those days, I want to say, the hourly wage might have been 55 to 90 cents an hour. Right. It's just unimaginable in today's standards, right? And believe it or not, people could save money on that. Yeah.
So did he? What did he end up doing to be successful?
He when he first came, he reunited with his oldest brother, and they learned how to make statues, I guess, back in Sicily. So they started a statue company here in St. Louis. So a lot of times your water fountains, your bird baths, your different things you saw around town were my dad and his brother made those back in the 50s. So a lot of things you see at nurseries or different stores. But then, they kind of, they decided that was really hard work. And my dad's brother, the older brother, wanted to go into the restaurant business and asked my dad, hey, let's do this together. My dad said, I really don't want to work nights and weekends. And my dad says, I'm about to go into this radiator business. Why don't you come with me? And his brother said, look, I don't like getting dirty.
So they went
their separate ways, both successful. My uncle did have a restaurant in St. Louis for many, many years. And now his sons have a restaurant that's been around 40 plus years.
Do you remember the name of your uncle's first restaurant?
I want to say it might have been Tommaso's. I'm not sure.
Ooh,
Now
that
their
rings a
sons,
bell,
yeah. Now their sons, my cousin's restaurant is Fratelli's in St. Charles.
Okay, sure. That's famous. Yeah. Yeah. So that's really an interesting story. And it's a story of grit and determination, and it kind of explains, I can kind of see where you get your grit and determination, but you have this amazing thing that you built called Santino's, the cigar lounge / all kinds of stuff. Really, it's a freestanding building. Mike, here's the question I have for you, because I think about this sometimes. It's the kind of place that you would normally see like in New York or locally here, like Chesterfield or Clayton. Of all the places that you could have put that, why did you choose Jefferson County in Imperial, Missouri?
Well, like I had mentioned on the onset of the show, I gave this concept a lot of thought because I was joking earlier. I really didn't know what I wanted. I was in my 40s, early 40s, and really didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I thought about this a while, and I looked at what was out there, and I thought, and I just kind of combined features that I thought you needed, and then had some of my own interesting ideas. I had to live within the constraints of a budget. Everyone has a budget. But I think I was able to accomplish my goal, which is all the different amenities and things that I have to offer.
So it was strictly a pricing thing. You put it in Jefferson County strictly because it was cheaper?
Well, so when I first decided my path, I started looking at the local cigar businesses in town. I approached a couple to see if they were interested in selling. At the time, no one seemed to be interested, and I was getting ready to just open on my own with my own concept. And I came across a nice lady in Jefferson County in Arnold that had a cigar bar, and I contacted her. And after a few months of, I guess you would call it negotiating, sometimes it was just tough to get in touch, but we worked out a deal, and I saw potential.
Yeah.
I saw potential in what she was doing, but knew that my vision was going to overtake it. So I was going to have to develop something, but at least I had a start.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, what's really awesome about what you've created, and we've got a lot of pictures to show. I'm sure the producer will put those up. But, you guys, you're not just a cigar bar. We've been calling it a cigar lounge. And I don't know what that really conjures in people's brains, but what do you think? What do you think it conjures in people's minds?
Because as you know, I'm pretty type A. I like I said, I kind of knew what I wanted. And a cigar lounge is much different than any other, let's say, liquor establishment. It implies that you're going to have the world's leading liquor, cigars, accessories, and ambiance. A lot of what a true cigar lounge is not just the opulence and luxury, but the camaraderie between the staff and customers. Because, as I always say, when you come to Santino's, you could sit next to, a banker, an engineer, a carpenter, electrician.
I've met some politicians in there.
Politicians, your local firemen and police officers. So it's a place where I always say, you never know if you're going to meet your new next best friend or orchestrate a business deal.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people sign contracts in the place. So it's very unique, and I wanted it to be warm and open. A lot of times, look, I've never been interested in mediocrity. And so when I looked around, I saw what I deemed to be just a lot of average and mediocre establishments that just didn't really, they might have hit one or two aspects nicely, but they didn't really encompass the entire vibe and almost lifestyle. What's really neat about pipe smoking or cigar smoking, it comes with the whole culture, right? the dress, sometimes people get, really fancy because it's a feel, right? You feel good when you smoke your pipe or your cigar. Think about you watch somebody, a team win the World Series or the Super Bowl. What do you always see in the locker room? They get out a cigar to celebrate.
Oh, sure, celebrate,
right?
Yeah.
Right? It's a sense of accomplishment.
Well, when you have a baby, it's a boy. Well, you don't have any it's a boys. You have good cigars.
Yeah.
It's a girls, it's a boys, Flying Dutchman. That's not your thing.
No.
So it's very interesting because I agree with you. I walk into a lot of establishments, and that is the case where they seem to have hit a few of the aspects, but it's not a full experience.
And I wanted to be kind of a trailblazer in this field, locally anyways, because there really wasn't anything out there like Santino's. And so I tried to hit on things that I heard in the first 5 years before I built my current location. Mm-hmm. I heard what people liked about my place and what they would have liked to see, in the next one. And so
you were taking notes.
I was taking notes and remembered a lot of those things.
So, going back to, what do people think when they walk into a cigar bar? It's some of those things, but I think a lot of people, especially people that don't smoke cigars, because, you're more than a cigar bar. You have an amazing selection of liquors. You have tremendous rental rooms. You serve food. We're going to get into all that. You've got a beautiful patio. You have tons of events, all kinds of events. But I think when non-smokers hear cigar bar, they think, oh gosh, I'm going to walk in there. There's going to be smoke everywhere. And when I first, go ahead.
Yeah. And that was one of the hardest, concepts to dispel, because that unfortunately is what the average person thinks of when you say cigar bar, cigar lounge, cigar store. They think you walk through the door and 4 or 5 feet lingering in the air is a thick cloud of smoke and you're choking. Yeah. It's just not the case. Now, some stores are better than others depending on their filtration system, and I use one that is extremely expensive and is used by casinos in Las Vegas. Wow. So if it's good for them, it's got to be good for me.
Well, you in line with your vision, I see that you have spared no expense. So it doesn't surprise me that you went all out with the filtration. And I can attest to that because obviously I've been to your place. And when I first walked in the first time, I was expecting the smoke. You can't even smell the smoke. You don't see it. You don't smell it. It's a wonderful thing.
Well, like I said, I can't guarantee that when you leave, you won't have a hint of smoke. Of course. You won't be rubbing your eyes. You won't be choking. There's not smoke lingering in the air. It's the best system out there.
Well, that's fantastic. And you even have a non-smoking room.
I do. Now, I was told this by someone I know that travels the world for business, and this person enjoys, in his short time off while he's out of town, visiting cigar bars all over the world. And he'll send pictures and send notes. Once again, I took a lot of notes those first 5 years. And so I was able to incorporate some of those ideas into the place. So yes, it's all encompassing.
So, excuse me again. So let's talk about something that I find really unique with your place. Some places do serve food, but there's something special about the food you serve at Santino's.
Well, yes, I've got a lot of call over the years. People will spend, sometimes hours or many hours there, and they have to leave because they get hungry. And so people are like, you have to get food. Well, you don't just magically snap your finger and produce, quality food, right? No matter, what kind of establishment you are. So it took a few years to develop. I had the recipes from my family that are well over 100 years old. So I had that aspect lined up. I was comfortable with that. But kitchen was there in the building. We built a kitchen. So I always knew it was a future probability. But it took, you have to find the right staff. I'm really particular on following the recipes to a T. We cook from scratch. All our sauces are handmade. We don't use anything out of a jar or can. It's all about freshness and uniqueness, right? We're not. This isn't like Italian American cuisine, which is what you find not just locally, but pretty much across the country. I wanted to stick to my roots and my heritage and give people some authentic Sicilian food in Jefferson County.
That's what's different. I knew there was some, because it tastes amazing. And you have somebody in your organization called Nando, I believe.
Yes,
Nando?
a dear friend of mine. Yeah,
He actually makes the sausage.
he makes. We don't tell our secret, but the sausage on our pizza. Some people say our pizza's one of the best in town, and the sauce is so unique. No one's ever tasted anything like it. And they love it.
It's a Sicilian recipe, an old world Sicilian recipe.
Yeah, we don't tell our secret. We make it. So we trained our cooks are amazing, and we showed them the way this food needs to be prepared and cooked. They follow it to a T. The food's amazing.
It is. And you're going to have to talk to Nando, because I hate to tell you this, but he told me his secret. But I won't tell anybody.
Okay.
But I was amazed, and I understand now why it tastes so good. It's made with love and care, that's for sure. So, okay. So you have, I should probably get a little closer to the mic. You have a lot of things left that we can talk about. So you're a cigar bar. You're a top-notch, rare and hard to find bourbons, whiskeys, scotch, even tequilas. But you have a downstairs portion of Santino's that looks amazing. It's like a version of the upstairs.
Well, let me take a brief couple of minutes, and I'll try to just give the layout for listeners maybe who have never been there.
Give us
and I'm hoping that
a virtual
you get a little
tour.
excited. Yeah. Sure. So as you walk in, the humidor is very large and spacious. It's right to your left as you walk in, and I have hundreds and hundreds of brands, varieties, shapes, sizes, rare cigars. I'm even lucky to be able to have even done this. When you have inventory in any business, no matter what you sell, you have to move and turn your inventory, right? To make a profit, to stay in business. I've had the luxury over the almost 10 years of being in business now in 2 different buildings to accumulate a variety of not just different brands, but all kinds of different cigars. And I've aged them 7 to 9 years. And now they're like aged and rare. They really smoke like a true Cuban because of how long they're aged. Most people in any business couldn't hold on to their inventory for almost a decade before they sell it.
That's challenging. Yeah.
Yes. So, not only are you going to find a wide array of cigars, but I have a room you can walk into that's in the humidor that is a pipe and pipe tobacco room that's just dedicated to that. So we've really expanded because we heard what customers were saying. They love the cigars, but wanted more varieties of pipes and pipe tobacco. So I expanded. And that's great to see young people smoking a pipe.
Yeah, it is really cool. There's something about a pipe,
I know. I love it.
So you walk in, the humidor's to your left, then what?
Oh, then you're automatically in the main lounge, and it's very spacious. I believe there's seating for about 70 people, and it has a floor-to-ceiling custom fireplace. I would imagine the opening's about 4 or 5 foot tall. So it's not like you'd see in your home.
Right.
It's really neat. And, people gravitate to that, to the couches in front of the fireplace as winters now is approaching and the colder weather. We're coming in from the patio. And I'll explain, the patio is right there off the main lounge. And, it's probably, nearly 3,000 square feet. But it has granite tables out there, partial overhang, Italian water fountain. I just had built.
We're talking about the patio?
Patio.
Okay.
I just built a few weeks ago, like a 6x6 fireplace where literally you can put logs.
Oh yeah, we've got a picture of that. It's beautiful.
Long. And so people now just love that because now that's the time of year to sit on the patio with the fireplace. So great sound system, lights. We have, we'll have music out on the patio. So it's neat. And then across the room from the main lounge is the non-smoking wine bar / wine room. Yeah. So if you enjoy coming to Santino's because well, we'll get to the liquor behind the bar. But if you enjoy, a nice libation or wine, and you don't want to be around the smoke, if smoking's not your thing, you can go into that non-smoking wine room with all that incredible liquor and enjoy yourself. That room also has fireplace, television, separate sound system.
It's quite spacious.
Yes, and I will say overall we have four different sound systems in different parts of the building that can all work independently from one another. So we really can cater a unique experience wherever you are in the building. You mentioned the lower level.
Yes, I'm real excited about that.
It's a total of 6,000 square feet, 3,000 on the main level, 3,000 on the lower level. I dedicated about a good third of the lower level and basically 2 large rooms, and kind of divided down the middle. And one is dedicated, I call it a gaming room. So I had commissioned some poker tables to be made. And so I've had custom poker tables. We have a real blackjack table from Hollywood Casino. We've created a whole like about 1,100 square feet of just dedicated private room for gaming. Poker or blackjack, and then we have a bar also, a secondary bar down there. So a lot of these rooms can be also rented.
That's what I want to talk about, because you told me before this. It's actually really affordable, and you get a lot with it.
Yes, I mean, I've been told that it's too cheap, but it's $400 for 4 hours, and you get a bartender with that.
The bartender comes with the rental.
Yes,
that is pretty cool.
And I'm lucky because my bar manager, Kurt, that he worked in Las Vegas in the gaming industry and the restaurant bar industry. So he's an incredible mixologist, as you know. I mean, we are kind of known for the best cocktails in town.
He's like a scientist behind the bar. He
is. And one thing when you have a place like this and there's multiple shifts and multiple people working there bartending, what Kurt really developed was true consistency. Right. So no matter who's working, no matter what day it is, the drinks will be the same and the same quality. That's really what we do. That's why people come. They come for the drinks. So let's talk about the biggest feature of the whole place. I think this is what everybody's waiting to hear. The physical bar is almost 50 feet long. It is the back wall is full of over 700 not just regular bottles of liquor, the rarest and hardest to find. Things like the Buffalo Antique Collection. And if listeners don't know what that means, that's all your Pappy Van Winkles, Eagle Rare 17, Sazerac 18, that whole collection. I have been fortunate to have the entire collection, which I don't believe any establishment in the St. Louis metropolitan area has every bottle. I've actually had every bottle for the past 10 years. I've never ran out. And that's just a testament of someone I call a friend, Phil Thayer from Southern Glaciers.
How do you get to that point?
Yeah. Phil really takes care of me. And, a real testament. I think Phil thought I was crazy when I first met him because the sales rep came around and I was asking, well, can I get this bottle, this bottle? Well, he went back to his boss, Phil, and he says, there's a crazy guy in Jefferson County that thinks we're going to give him all this liquor. And Phil typically doesn't, go around to places like mine. And one day he popped in and I explained my vision rather passionately. And at the end of the conversation, he's like, you know what? I bought into this. He says, I'm going to support you. And true to his word, he did.
But before we go any further, it's important for people who aren't in the business to know what you mean by that, because you don't just open a bar and get access to all the rarest, hardest to move stuff.
This is true.
And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it was it's real eye opener this kind of business because the cigar industry is very small, and liquor is so hard. The big thing right now the last 10 years is bourbon, whiskey. Everybody went. You go to a liquor store, you can never find what you want because it's always what they call allocated.
Yeah.
So you get X amount of bottles, and then they have to determine where that's going to go. So the demand is way higher than the supply.
Yeah.
So once again, I'm grateful and I'm fortunate that I've been able to build a collection, and that's kind of why we're known as probably one of the best selections in the entire state.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're really grateful for Phil.
Oh, tremendous. And Breakthrough has helped out immensely as
Breakthrough beverage. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Southern Glazers and Breakthrough.
But Phil really took the lead because he did this when it wasn't in vogue. And, and I appreciate it. My family had the opportunity, my dad, to have a pretty fair size, business that we had for over 50 years. And, you want to reward your customers that spend the most money. I get how business models work, but sometimes, like Phil said, you have to make an exception to the rule. There's always a worthy exception. And he wanted to see, and actually I got to Phil some credit, he wanted to see Jefferson County with an establishment that was worthy. And so I think he appreciated that I was in that location. And so,
and also appreciated that you had the dream, the vision.
Yes. And that's why I decided to stay, because after I was out of my lease the first 5 years, I knew that I was going to build my own building. And I looked all over town. I looked out west. I looked in Chesterfield. I looked everywhere, and I knew there was possibility of making more money somewhere else. But I have to say, the people that I have met in Jefferson County, just amazing, just salt of the earth. So there would be no other choice than to stay loyal to the people that helped me get to where I am.
I can tell that there's a streak of loyalty in you. It runs in your blood. And I think it comes from your heritage.
Sure.
Your father was probably that way. You're that way. Now, here's the sad part, Mike. We're running out of time. Okay. But I want to go over a few things before we let you go. And I want you first to tell us, where is Santino's located? Where can people navigate to come to Santino's?
It's in Imperial, Missouri, so 1508 Professional Drive. So it's right off 55 at the Imperial main exit. You actually can see it either way on 55.
There's a huge sign.
Yes, a huge sign that lights up like a billboard at night.
So, and you can also check out their Facebook page, Santino's Cigars and Cocktails. And that's updated all the time. But here's a few things that people may not know. You have food trucks on Sundays.
Yes.
You have things like painting nights where that brings in people that wouldn't normally come necessarily, but I've seen pictures of it. I think we have some to put up. You have craft nights. You have live music. And coming up on November 8th, which is just right around the corner, you're going to have Craig Holt, who actually draws a pretty good crowd.
Yes.
Yeah. But here's a big announcement. Anybody out there that lives in St. Louis and possibly beyond, because he was in a band called The Urge. The Urge, his name's Steve Ewing. And he's a successful entrepreneur, and he's going to be at Santino's May 8th. That's a big ticket. You're not going to have, it's going to be shoulder to shoulder. They're going to be packed like sardines.
Yeah, Steve's great guy. He has Steve's hot dogs in the city. Yeah. Just great St. Louisan.
Well, he played Fair St. Louis to this huge crowd for 4th of July.
It's an honor to have Steve there, and he's played there a few other times. So we really look forward to that. It's a good opportunity for Jefferson County to see someone like him.
Well, Mike, I'm sorry that we're out of time, but I want to tell you, keep fighting the good fight for us, man. You're the jewel of Jefferson County, and there's just no other place to go to get what you offer. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll have you back on. Take care. Great episode there, eh? That was Mike Marino from Santino's Cigars and Cocktails. And if you haven't been there, you owe it to yourself to visit. Stay tuned for the job of the week. But next week, we have a very important guest. His name is Joseph Maddock from Employers Consulting Group. And he's going to tell us about something that is revolutionary, something big that's happened in the healthcare industry. And if you own a business, or even if you're in HR, you're going to want to see this. This is important information. You don't want to miss next Tuesday at 10 o'clock, Joseph Maddock. All right? So thanks for watching. Please share this on your social media. It really helps us grow. Take care, everybody.
Hire away with Collins Harlan.